In this video I'm going to show you how to use the colour, move and beam effects racks on the Wolfmix W1. These effects racks are what make the Wolfmix W1 really special. I'm going to show you using the Wolfmix demo project and the top heads group. I'll start by switching these on by pressing the encoder, and we see them in the visualizer here along the top. If I start by pressing the blue button, this triggers the colour effects rack. Then we have the green for the move effects rack, and we have the purple for the beam effects rack. So let's dive into this colour effects rack and see exactly how it works. To get to the colour effects rack, we hit colour effects just up here. With the top row of buttons, I can switch the groups on and off. So I'll switch the colour effects on here on the top moving heads. As you can see, they're playing a colour changing effect, and they're moving between purple and this peach amber colour. I can turn the purple off and trigger another colour such as green, or perhaps add a little bit of teal, some white, or maybe some light pink. I'll keep these colours for now. Along the top here, you see a list of the different effects. So here we've got a rainbow effect, we've got a sparkle effect, a chaser effect, a light fever effect, another rainbow effect but with some different settings, another sparkle effect but with some different settings, and another rainbow effect and chaser effect, again with different settings. So let's go and look at these settings down here. If I go back to the rainbow effect, the first encoder allows me to adjust the speed. Fast and slow, pretty explanatory there, pretty self-explanatory. If I tap this, it goes over to the BPM. So this will take the tap here, 108 BPM, and it jumps one section for every beat. If I turn this, it'll go faster by jumping one section every half beat, quarter beat, and so on and so on. Here we've got the microphone. This jumps to the next section of the effect every time a beat is triggered over the inbuilt microphone or the line in. See the audio tutorial for more information on that one. Let's put it back to time. Here we've got the phasing. So when it's at 0, all the lights are changing together. And as we add phasing, you see we get a little bit of a wave there. You might have noticed it's waving from the center to the outside. If I tap this encoder, I can change the order. So you see here we've got this symmetrical order. I can go inwards like this, left to right, and right to left. Be sure on the fixture setup, by the way, that you have your fixtures in the correct order. You can move the order of your fixtures, and the effects will be processed according to the order of your fixtures in the fixture setup. Okay, next we've got size, which isn't actually used on this effect. We'll come back to that one. Here we've got fade. You see the effects, the colours are fading between lights. If I take that off, now they jump between lights. These are fun to kind of play about with live. You can create a lot of different effects just by playing with these parameters. Okay, to show the size, if we go to the chaser effect, here we've got a big chaser, and as we do this, the chaser gets smaller. We could add some fade. So that's the colour effects. If we move on to the move effects, again I'll switch this on just with my top heads. I can touch the screen at the top here as well. So here we're playing a figure of 8 effect, and it's really slow. Let's speed this up a little bit. That looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Take the phasing off. The lights move together. Sometimes it's nice just to add a little bit of phasing. How cool is that? And again, you see we're processing from left to right. If we do it this way, it processes it from the center outwards and from the outside inwards. Change the size of the effect. So here we have a very large figure of 8, or we can reduce this right down like so. You can also move the effect. So you see these 4 center buttons a little up at the moment, which means the effect's playing in the center of the stage. If you want to move that whole effect downwards, hit this, and you see the figure of 8 moves downwards. I'll just increase the size a bit. Or we could move it upwards to the ceiling. Or to the left. Or over to the right. And in the top corners and bottom corners too. It's quite fun to hit these buttons live, just to take your effect shape and move it around the stage. I quite like the tilt effect, or the pan effect, let's say. If we slow this down, make it symmetrical, add a little bit of phasing, and move it to the top. So you see you can take the same effect and you can create all sorts of different looks just by editing these parameters. A nice little feature is called flick. This slows the fade right down so that it actually jumps to the next part of the effect before the fade's finished. The best way to show you this is just by demonstration. So if I hit this encoder, you see these heads at the top. Let's put them in the center. So at 0%, we've essentially got maximum fade, and then when we start to add flick, it slows the fade down so much that the lights start flicking. You can create some really cool effects with that. What other effects do we have here? We have the tilt effect. Oh, you have a fan option here as well. By tapping the size encoder, we can add some fan like this. Or we can reduce the fan like this. With a little bit of phasing, this looks great. Maybe from the center. The best way to figure out these effects is to just play with the parameters and the different effects types until you have something that you like. We've got the circle effect here. Pretty self-explanatory, the lights go in a circle. This is Aladdin's Magic Carpet. Very creative with the effects names there. Light Fever again, or you could call it Can-Can. You can manipulate the size of the can-can. To have something like this. If you move this down onto the stage as well, this gives a pretty good effect. Again, you could have this symmetrical. Little bit of fanning. Maybe a bit of phasing. Bit of fading. After that, we've got the conductor effect, like the arms of a conductor swinging from left to right. And finally, we have a sequencer. Now the sequencer can be edited over here. We have 8 different steps. So if we pause that sequencer for 1 second and go to step 1, we can choose from 4 different positions for each step. So step 1 uses this position, step 2 uses this position, 3, 4, and you can change them with the encoder here as well. And hit the button at the top over here, and hit the button at the top over here to preview the sequence. Okay, that's the move effects. Next for the beam effects. So the beam effects manipulate the dimmer of the light. So if I switch the beam effects on again here, so at the moment we have a sine wave. If I remove the phasing, you can see what this effect's doing. It's essentially dimming the lights up and down. We can speed it up. Add a bit of phasing. Change the order. How cool is that? Again, like before, we have the size and we have the fade. A sparkler effect. Another chaser. Light fever. A heartbeat effect. And here we have some beam sequencing effects. So this is just like with the move effects, but I'm going to switch this on all groups. Let's go back to the home screen, switch these lights back on. So you see right now the sequencer is jumping between each group. We've got another sequencer effect here, playing some different patterns. And another one here. And just like before, we can edit this just by pressing the edit button here. We can navigate through the steps either with the encoder or by touching on the screen. And we can change which light we want to switch on for each step of the sequencer. This can also be recorded live. So we've got the sequencer playing here, and we can change these in real time. Like so. So they're the 3 different effects racks on the Wolfmix, and the best way to learn these is to just have a play with them and see what you can create. I'll see you in the next video.